The atmosphere on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was expected to be electric, as fans eagerly tuned in to see the elusive and intensely private Cillian Murphy sit across from the ever-charming and sharp-witted Stephen Colbert. Known for his dry humor and guarded personality, Cillian rarely makes appearances on talk shows, making this interview a highly anticipated one. But no one could have predicted how the night would unfold. What began as a cordial exchange soon spiraled into an unexpected clash of personalities, resulting in Murphy abruptly walking off the set in a moment that left both the live audience and viewers at home in complete shock. The conversation started off light and casual, with Stephen complimenting Cillian on the success of Oppenheimer and his stunning transformation into the titular physicist. Murphy, dressed in his signature all-black ensemble, responded with his usual humility and soft-spoken demeanor. Colbert, sensing the actor's reserved nature, tried to break the ice with a few jokes and behind-the-scenes questions. While Murphy initially played along, it became clear that certain topics were making him visibly uncomfortable. A particularly sensitive moment arose when Colbert joked about Murphy's intense method acting, likening it to losing touch with reality. At first, Murphy smiled politely, but his eyes betrayed a hint of irritation. "I think that's a bit reductive," he replied coolly, maintaining composure. Colbert, not one to shy away from probing deeper, pushed further. "But come on, Cillian, you've got to admit, not eating for weeks to play Oppenheimer? That's a little extreme, right?" Murphy's response was short and clipped. "It's about respecting the role." The tension was palpable. The audience laughed awkwardly, unsure if this was part of some dry comedic routine or a real disagreement. The air in the studio began to feel heavier with every exchange. Then came the moment that truly shifted the tone of the interview. Colbert, possibly sensing a viral moment, brought up Murphy's aversion to celebrity culture. He playfully accused Murphy of being too cool for the red carpet, prompting a visible change in the actor's expression. "It's not about being cool," Murphy responded, now clearly defensive. "I just don't enjoy commodifying myself for entertainment." Colbert tried to lighten the mood, quipping, "Well, that's a bit ironic considering you're on The Late Show, isn't it?" The audience chuckled, but Murphy's face hardened. What was meant to be playful now seemed like a personal jab. Murphy paused for a moment, clearly deliberating whether to continue. "I agreed to be here because I respect your show," he said, "but I didn't expect to be mocked for having boundaries." Colbert raised his hand slightly, perhaps sensing things had gone too far. "No offense meant, Cillian, just trying to get a laugh," he said with a smile. But Murphy wasn't having it. "Not everything needs to be turned into a joke, Stephen," he replied firmly. The crowd hushed. You could hear a pin drop. The tension had reached its peak, and all eyes were locked on the two men at the center of it all. What happened next took everyone by surprise. Cillian leaned back, looked around the studio for a moment, and then calmly removed his microphone. "I think I'm done here," he said, rising from his seat. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Colbert, taken aback, stood up as well, attempting to salvage the situation. "Cillian, wait, come on," he said, his voice tinged with disbelief. But Murphy was already walking toward the backstage area, his long coat trailing behind him like a dramatic exclamation point. The cameras quickly cut to a commercial, but the internet had already caught fire. Within minutes, social media exploded with clips and speculation. Hashtags like #MurphyWalkout and #ColbertClash trended worldwide. Fans were divided as some praised Murphy for standing his ground, while others criticized him for being too sensitive. Entertainment news outlets scrambled to report on the incident, and soon, leaked behind-the-scenes whispers painted a picture of a man who felt deeply misunderstood. Meanwhile, Colbert's team issued a carefully worded statement saying they regret any discomfort caused during the interview and hoped to have Murphy back on the show in the future. The next day, Murphy's publicist released a brief message stating, "Cillian values his privacy and approaches interviews with sincerity." He felt the tone of the conversation was not in alignment with that, though it was diplomatically phrased. The underlying message was clear: Murphy felt ambushed. Sources close to the actor claimed that he was especially upset about the comments regarding his method acting, which he considers an essential part of his craft and not a topic for mockery. For Murphy, acting is sacred, and when it's reduced to punchlines, it crosses a line. Colbert, on the other hand, addressed the walkout during the following night's monologue, attempting to strike a balance between apology and comedy. "Well folks," he began, "last night we had a guess at walkout, which just proves that even Irish charm has its limits." The audience laughed, but he followed up with a more sincere note. "I genuinely admire Cillian Murphy. He's a brilliant actor and a thoughtful person. Maybe my jokes didn't land the way I intended. That's on me." Some applauded his humility, while others felt he was still deflecting blame. Industry insiders began to weigh in. Some applauded Murphy for challenging the often superficial nature of celebrity interviews. Others questioned if his reaction was disproportionate. Fellow actors like Florence Pugh and Tom Hardy reportedly reached out to him in support, praising his commitment to authenticity. One anonymous director was quoted saying, "Cillian doesn't play the game, and that's what makes him different." But not everyone understands that. The moment sparked a larger conversation in Hollywood about how interviews often prioritize entertainment over empathy. For Murphy, the incident only deepened his already mysterious persona, known for avoiding fame and rarely doing press. This event added to his enigmatic aura. Fans on forums speculated about his next move. Would he retreat further from the public eye, or would he confront the media in his own way? A few days later, he was seen attending a quiet poetry reading in Dublin, looking calm and unaffected. Those who know him say he's unfazed by public drama, focusing instead on his art and family. To him, moments like these are distractions from what truly matters. Meanwhile, the fallout from the interview continued to ripple through the talk show world. Other guests reportedly became wary of appearing on The Late Show, fearing they too might be caught off guard. Colbert's producers began reevaluating their pre-interview protocols, ensuring that no guest would feel ambushed again. Some insiders claimed that Stephen himself was more reflective in subsequent interviews, showing a more cautious and respectful tone. Whether it was due to genuine remorse or image control, there was a noticeable shift. In the weeks that followed, Murphy returned to doing what he does best, acting. News broke that he had quietly begun filming a new psychological thriller set in post-war Europe. When asked if he would be doing interviews to promote the film, his team simply replied, "We'll see." Despite the controversy, Murphy's star power remained untouched, if not enhanced. In an age where authenticity is rare, his refusal to play by the rules only endeared him more to his core fanbase. He became a symbol of artistic integrity, even as others labeled him as difficult. Analysts and culture critics began dissecting the event, pointing to it as a sign of changing dynamics in celebrity culture. "We expect our stars to entertain us, even in discomfort," one columnist wrote. But Cillian Murphy reminded us that they are not obligated to play along. Podcasts, YouTube breakdowns, and TikTok reactions turned the walkout into a cultural moment. Some called it petty, others called it powerful, but everyone agreed on one thing: it was real. In a world full of scripted performances, this unscripted tension resonated far beyond a single night's television. As for the relationships between Murphy and Colbert, it remains unknown. Neither has spoken to each other publicly since that night. Some insiders hint that a quiet reconciliation may have occurred behind the scenes, while others believe the wound is still fresh. But whether they ever meet again on camera, the night Cillian Murphy stormed off The Late Show will live on as a defining moment in modern celebrity interviews, a clash not just of egos, but of values. A reminder that even in the world of entertainment, boundaries matter, and not every silence needs to be filled with a laugh.